keep up to date with our latest videos, please hit the button below. Hello and Happy New Year, or belated Happy New Year to you all. There's got to be a point in time where we stop saying that as we almost step into February, but conscious that we haven't done a video so far this year. A couple of reasons. One, lots of back of house maintenance, site improvements going on, looking into new and improvements as always. We've had an awful lot of inquiries as well and user correspondence, which has taken up a fair amount of time this month. And equally, the viruses that seem to have wiped out most of the nation have also hit the FBD and RBD world. So COVID, coughs, colds, the lot, and not fully recovered. So apologies in advance if I do have to go off mic briefly to have a cough and splutter. I hope to not burden you with that too much. So hopefully you're all well. And this video has been inspired based on some of the user correspondence that we've had. There's a couple, very small amount of people that haven't fully grasped and understood the relevance around system creation and testing. The importance of it hasn't fully sunk in. Perhaps a couple of videos we've done, they've misinterpreted or been misconstrued. So hopefully this video will help to clarify that once and for all. And for anybody that hasn't seen any of these previous videos, this one will act as a way of understanding and teaching you how you can create and test, which is the most important part, a system or strategy using data. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is go to our data here on the Racing Bet Data website and go to example downloads. Now this is accessible to everybody and anybody. I'm going to export this statistical relevance file and just open that one up. So this is where we're going to input some values in a moment to generate a p-value. So we're doing a t-test. Now anybody that goes, what on earth is that? I'd encourage you to go on to Google or search engine, YouTube, and have a look and find out a little bit in your own time, rather than me sitting here boring you all with details around it. We've created the file that accepts the inputs and generates the outputs. If you want to know and understand a little bit more about it, I do encourage you to go away and look into that a little bit. I'm going to navigate to the dashboard, which is the heartbeat of the site for generating output. Obviously, we have the two standalone files. So I know these are popular with people as well, people using the results and odds download file to look into the price movements before the race starts and also in play. And obviously our pre-race download file really popular, and we've moved a lot of the inputs from that into our dashboard. But for simplicity of what I'm going to show you in this video, we're going to use the data dashboard. Okay, so let's get onto the dashboard. Now, I'm going to reiterate this point as well, because potentially in videos in the past, people have seen what we've done in terms of generating output and gone, I'm going to replicate and emulate that, or try to, and take it as a system that they can just go in, plug in, and off they go, and it's going to generate them profit with no thought or consideration for what we've done and not fully understanding what we've done or why we've done it. This is purely to generate output. I am not saying this is a system that you can go away and use and it's going to generate profits. It is to generate output solely. Okay, so I am just going to select the three filters here that contain all-weather tracks. Now obviously they're Southall here, for instance, is National Hunt and all-weather, and Kempton, Lingfield, Newcastle can run over multi-disciplines, and if I wanted to I can obviously filter it further using the going, but I'm just generating output, so at the moment it's irrelevant to me. I'm also just going to skip through to the new filters here, and we're going to include horses that won their last race. Okay, last year has been selected. Now just to explain what I've done, I've selected a few racetracks from last year where horses won their previous race. I'm going to generate the output from that, and it's going to be profitable. Okay, now I'm going to tell you why it's going to be profitable, because it's going to give us two options. One is we either backed all those horses and it would return a sum, or we laid them all and it would return a sum. Now the likelihood is one of those will show as profitable. There's a very few occurrences potentially where you can generate output and that would show neutral for one and negative for the other, or potentially even slightly negative for one and negative for the other. But most of the time one of those two options will be profitable. Now the risk here is that somebody runs this output, looks at the laying size, for instance, let's say the laying is profitable, and goes, oh, that's profitable, I've created a system there, let's run with that. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of doing that, but in essence, that is potentially what somebody could do. That is classic backfitting or backfashioning. You've put no thought into what you're doing in terms of generating your output, and then you've just been led by the fact that what the screen is telling you is that was profitable. It could have been profitable backing, it might have been profitable laying. Doesn't mean going forwards that there's anything substantial behind that to say that it will be the same moving forwards. We're obviously looking at data here, which is really a really good base and starting point for creating a system. But if you're serious about that, you need to consider other factors. Now those other factors might be, so in this instance, we're looking at horses that won last time out. Well, this time out, are they running with a different weight? Are they running with a different jockey? Is it a totally different type of going? Is it a totally different type of track? Has the jockey changed? Has the trainer changed? All of those aspects are within our data set, but it's possible people are overlooking that and blanket betting based on data alone. Now, we've covered that in other videos. It's not recommended because you're not taking into account those other factors that might account for why a horse performs better or worse than it has done previously in its last race. So, you know, those are the additional layers you need to get to. You need to be smarter than the market. And to do that, you need the most information you can get and reasons why, potential reasons why something will perform differently to how it has in the past. Okay, so that's an important note to take down. Now, I've mentioned already about the importance of testing going forwards. So we can generate output, and I'm just unticking this because I'm just going to run this while still talking. I'm just going to generate the output for the odd months last year. Now, when I talk about testing, we can generate a system and think, brilliant, that looks excellent on paper, is exactly what I expected to see historically. I can get straight in. No, you still need to do that period of monitoring and testing. Now, obviously with our dashboard, you could go into it each day, export yesterday's, add it to your database or whatever you've created in Excel. We can go in weekly, monthly, whatever it may be, and you can monitor that performance going forwards without actually having to part of any cash. So you can build your system, create your system, think that looks really good, and before you spend money on it, you can carry on that period of testing. That is absolutely what you should and need to do, okay? What I'm doing here is sort of cutting a corner there by selecting the odd months only. I'm then allowing myself to create a system based on that. And as I said, it'll be profitable one way or the other, backing or laying. But then I've allowed myself to be able to do testing using the even months from last year as well. Okay, so I've not created any bias as such. I can look at the performance here, see if it's profitable, and then do some testing on last year. I'm also just going to send this output to Excel as well, just so I've got the odds data when I need it. So I'm not saying that you can avoid doing any future testing, but this just gives you a bit more confidence. You're able to test about something you haven't created the data on. So the backfashioning and backfitting element will not exist for the even months in 2023. Let's flick back here. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the bottom of this data set. So remember, 2023 odd months only, and we'll have a profitable output more than likely. So you can see here, so let's ignore the industry odds, let's ignore the place market odds, solely focusing on Betfair Win Market, okay? So you can see if we backed all of those horses at those tracks in the odd months, 2023, won their race previously, backed them all, would have lost. If we laid them all, would have been profitable. Okay, brilliant. But we've essentially just been led by what this has told us. I had no preconceived idea, I had no thought behind that, and we've not filtered down and looked at any of the horses that have raced in that and assessed performance to eliminate ones that potentially are a risk to being laid or being backed, whichever way you want to look at it. It's pure data, okay? Now, go back to the p-value sheet, the significant testing sheet. We can start populating these blue columns here to give us some confidence around this system. Okay, so number of bets. It's go back to the table, 1,463. How many won? Okay, so there's 276 winners, but we're not backing. So our winners is the 1,463 minus 276, which is 1,187. Not done that in my head. I've got a calculator on my leg. The yield, that's already in here, so 1.54. And the average odds. So this is why we've got the output here. We've got the average odds in here because we can look at the Betfair SP column. I'm just going to check, make sure there's no zeros where there's issues with Betfair. Everything looks good in there, so we don't need to filter anything out. And it tells us down the bottom that the average odds was 9.62. However, that is the backing odds. We want the lay odds, so we have to do the inverse of that. So I'm just going to put a separate cell here to give us our average odds in a reference. I could include it in the formula, but it's just easier. You see what I'm doing then. So we need to do the inverse, and the way to do that is we do 1 divided by that minus 1, take off the stake, and then we add it back in again at the end, and that gives us our average odds that we would have laid at. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it in here as a value, and that gives us a p-value score. So by now you will understand that you need to look into this a little bit more, but if we look to the right hand side, you'll see that a p-score below 5% gives moderate evidence to support the fact that this is a genuine system. It's not down to luck alone. There's some skill involved. 5% wouldn't really be anything to give you that the reliability to move forward with it. If, for instance, we had created this system and this is being the period of time that we've tested, this is back data, so I'm back fashioning. So certainly should not be relying on this figure, but I'm just explaining about the p-value. So anything below 1% could be considered strong evidence, and anything under 0.1 very strong. So that's where you're looking, below 1%. So we're at 3% here. Now, what that means is we probably need more bets to get us to that level. So we can look down the side here, and we want to see where the p-value drops below 1%. And if we go all the way down here, you can see that after 2,340 bets, it drops below 1%. So we almost need to add another 1,000 bets to that to give us the confidence that this is a reliable system or strategy. So that's the point in time, and that is assuming that the performance stays at or around where it is. So your yield stays about the same, your strike rate stays about the same, your profitability level stays about the same. So that is the period that you then need to cut off here and monitor going forwards, okay, to generate that confidence level that you can take this into a real world environment. So you either need to build that level up in terms of paper trading or monitoring using our outputs, or you need to monitor at very low stakes, okay? Now, the other thing we can do is what I've done already in here. I'm just going to flick back to the top. We can then test using the even months. So the reason I've done even months opposed to anything else is that, you know, if we were to do days of the week and filter just by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, typically more races, and then build a system on that and base it against Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, probably wouldn't be doing like for like. If we were to do the first 6 of the months against the last 6, you know, seasonal bias, those sorts of things. So I think doing it every other month in this respect gives a lot more confidence, and by far the most stable way of doing it. Let's have a look at the output for the even months last year and see what it comes up with. Just going to generate this output to screen first of all. And the other thing I'll show you is that actually the Excel statistical relevance file that we've created for you, we've now built that into the website itself. So you don't even need to do all of that if you don't want to. It gives you a bit more detail, but we have that p-value now. So we've got 1,363. Let's go to the bottom here. Scroll to the bottom. So we can see that from these 1,363 races, we have a profitable session, again, laying, smaller yield, And here's the p-value. So this is the p-value for those for the even 6 months. So you could then plug that. You can say for that 23%, well, that's not giving us the levels under 5, under 1% that we were looking for. So you would still need to monitor that going forwards. Yes, it generated a profit, but the p-value of 23.24% is nowhere near what you would need to have that confidence level. So you would still need to obtain more bets or more simulated bets moving forwards. So we could obviously use January 2024 and see how that's performed. But my point in case to you here is that you've created a system, we've created it using the odd months, and it's looked fairly, it's given moderate evidence to suggest that it's profitable. What we've done here is simulate another 6 months that were not included in that original data set, and it's told us that, okay, it's profitable, but there's absolutely no evidence that is down to anything but luck. So if we plumb these figures in, I'm just going to go back to the top to export this to Excel. So we've got a second Excel output. And we'll open that one up as well on top once it's created the Excel for us. Here it is. So if we plug these figures in, let's go back to our statistical relevance file. We'll clear these blue ones out. So if we look at the second 6 months, back to the bottom of the data set. So we have 1,363 bets with the amount of wins. So we need to do 1,363 minus 258 because we are laying 1,105. And the yield was 0.64. Totally screwing this up, aren't I? Oh. .64. Okay, average odds. So we need to calculate this. Let's go back to our new output. And this is the second one. No, that's the right one. So average odds here. Let's just make sure there's no zeros contained in here. No, all good. So the average odds here, 10.09, so slightly higher. Let's do the same again. So equals average. Average of column T. And then we do the inverse conversion. 1 divided by this minus 1. And then add that stake back in. 1.109, so very similar. Paste it in. So there's our p-value, 23.22. So if I go back to our website, 23.24, so slightly out, just that would be purely down to the rounding of the yield that I've used in there, but 23.24, absolutely nowhere near the figure that we need to get it to have any confidence. And I think this will probably even go off the screen here. Let's see how far we need to get to. So yeah, even doing 6,480 more or bets in total only takes us to 5.5%. So you'd be looking at approaching 10,000 more if it was to continue at that level. So that is exactly the case in point as to why you do testing, because somebody might have generated that system using that 6 months of data and gone, wow, that is below 5%. I've got a profitable system here. I'm going to move forwards with it. The next 6 months, okay, they're profitable, but there's absolutely no confidence in that. It's showing here that the 1 in X probability, so it's 1 in 4 probability that is just down to chance. So nothing significant about that at all to give us any confidence. So you would need to continue to do that period of monitoring going forwards. So I've simulated that. I've simulated a system based on 6 months of data. I've simulated then testing it into real world, even though it's the other 6 months, and we haven't got the confidence there. So that should be a red flag to say, okay, it is profitable, but not at the rate, and there's no strong evidence at all to suggest that that is anything but luck. It could quite easily have been that this was in the black and the lay was in the red, and that obviously would have been an instant indicator, but we've used the p value, which is in here and in the sheet that marry up, to say to you that actually this system, there's no evidence. There's no evidence moving forwards. You need to monitor this for a continued period of time. And that period of time would either tell you that actually, yes, the evidence becomes stronger and stronger and stronger because we've got enough in our sample size, or this would start turning red and you would have gone, do you know what? Thank God I didn't put any money on that, because there is no evidence here to suggest that system is long-term sustainable. Okay, so hopefully this video has explained and given that clarity now around the importance of testing, how you do the testing and how you do that forward testing as well, and warning about backfitting. Like I said, the last point I'll leave you on is using outputs. So we've used, on this example here, we've used horses that were last time out position 1, okay, here, and we've used a few specific tracks. We've done nothing else. You need to look into that data, understand what horses at what tracks, odds ranges, jockey change, up in trip. You need to consider more variables than something as simple as that, because there's absolutely nothing, no way that you can create a system that is simple as that and expect it to have that long-term longevity in terms of being profitable. Hope you find this video useful. Best wishes for the rest of the year, and we will be in touch soon with some new updates.